In autumn 1955, a young American arrived at Newnham College, Cambridge, on a Fulbright scholarship. A brilliant student, she had already shown signs of writing talent through short stories published in American magazines. Now, her postgraduate studies in English left her time to pursue other passions. And Sylvia Plath had little doubt where her ambitions lay.
She was absolutely determined to be a writer. She was also determined to find a mate. I think she was much more clear-headed at that time about what she wanted. Ted Hughes knew what he wanted to do, but it was very amorphous. Whereas I think she had a pretty clear idea that that was what she was going to do. And when she found Ted, he was the man.
Some of Ted's would-be writer friends rented rooms at the rectory of St. Botolph's Church. In February 1956, they organised a party to launch a literary magazine, a party attended by Sylvia Plath.
And I'd read some of Ted's poems in this magazine. I was very impressed, and I wanted to meet him. And I went to this little celebration, and that's actually where we met.
First sight, first snapshot, isolated, unalterable, stilled in the camera's glare. I see you there, clearer, more real than in any of the years in its shadow, as if I saw you that once, then never again.
Ted had incredible magnetism. I think for any woman who was in, in the range of Ted all his life, he did have this incredible magnetism. I don't think he intended it, he just had it. So that Sylvia was immediately drawn. She saw he was with someone else, and she was determined to have him, more or less. And so she bit him. She bit him in the cheek.
You meant to knock me out with your vivacity. I remember little from the rest of that evening. I slid away with my girlfriend. Nothing except her hissing rage in a doorway, and the swelling ring-mote of tooth marks that was to brand my face for the next month. The me beneath it, for good.
I think that Hughes went like a lamb to the slaughter. But when she bit him on the cheek at that party, it was such a stagey thing to do. And with men with more common sense, it wouldn't have worked. They just would have thought, oh, God, get this dame off me. But she assessed his response correctly, and he couldn't get over it. We kept writing poems to each other, and then it just grew out of that, I guess, the feeling that we both were writing so much and having such a fine time doing it, we decided that this should keep on.
These were young poets marked for life by each other before tragic death occurred. There is a sense of destiny and the commitment to a life where you do what poetry tells you, as he said.
Only 4 months after they met, Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath were married. Ted's first poetry collection was published in 1957, and that same year he travelled with Sylvia to America, where teaching posts provided income to support their writing. They returned to England in 1959 with a baby on the way and found a flat near Primrose Hill in London.
It does seem that Sylvia Plath was an apprentice poet. She was definitely immensely talented and focused and driven towards excellence. But it does seem that Ted Hughes put her in touch with what he would call himself, her poetic self, that he had a kind of knowledge about how to do it, and he had experienced his move from the academic to the anthropological, if you like, realities, and he assisted her there.
I think superficially we're very alike. We like the same things. We live at the same tempo, have the same sort of rhythm in almost every way. But obviously this is a very fortunate covering for temperaments that are extremely different, but that lead secret lives. You see, they content themselves in an imaginative world, so they never really come into open conflict.
You wouldn't like to give the impression, though, that you spend your whole married lives thinking up poems and reading them to each other.
I think our domestic life is practically indistinguishable from all the people who live around us. The only main difference is that Ted doesn't go out to work at 9 and come home at 5. He retires about 9 to his room and works. But I certainly have a life just like all the other housewives and mothers in our district, and shopping dishes and taking care of the baby and so forth. And I think very few people have an idea I do anything at all except household chores and so on.
In 1960, Sylvia published her first volume of poems, praised for their technical skill and sense of threat. Ted's second poetry collection also appeared that year and enhanced his growing reputation.
He was the dominant figure. He was the man who was able to reach down and kind of use his dream world, use his unconscious. He kind of was in touch with it, and she was kind of frozen somewhere on the surface. He helped her very much to get in touch with her demons. He gave her the key to the cellar door, and she went down there. You know, she was a good pupil, and down she went. But what was in the cellar turned out to be nightmare.